You're not supposed to laugh.
Oh, apologies. I'll go straight-faced. Want me to say it?
Yeah, say the last one.
Bloody Mary.
Ooh, that was spooky.
Thanks, I made it myself.
I'm Skye.
I'm Kyler.
And this is Histories, Mysteries, and Conspiracies. On this episode, the special Halloween episode, we are talking about Bloody Mary. The origin story of Bloody Mary. Like, who was the original Bloody Mary? Okay, Kyler.
Maybe. Okay.
Do you know who Bloody Mary was?
Yeah, I do.
Who was she?
A girl named Mary. She lived.
That's all I got.
And died. Yep.
That was good. That was pretty accurate, kind of. So there's three people.
How can it be kind of accurate?
Because there's three people that they think could be like the first Bloody Mary, like where the name came from. But one of them, her name actually isn't Mary.
No, her name's Douglas.
That's not her name either. But we're going to talk about the first one, which is Queen Mary the First. Do you know who Queen Mary the First was? You've watched Tudors.
She was a queen. I watched the first, 6 episodes of the Tudors.
Okay, well, Queen Mary the First was the only child of King Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. And at the age of 16, Henry annulled the marriage. And then Mary, because of this, was separated from her mother and forbidden from seeing her again. And because, Henry VIII was a crazy guy.
Wasn't that crazy? Have you watched the Tudors?
No, I have not watched the Tudors.
All he wanted to have was a son.
Yeah, but it made her kind of feel worthless. So she didn't have the best upbringing. And then after that, he married Anne Boleyn, who had a daughter named Elizabeth. And Anne Boleyn wanted Elizabeth to become queen one day, so she pressed Parliament to declare Mary illegitimate. And she succeeded, which made Mary last in line for the throne. So she had that going on. And also during this time, they think she had endometriosis or something along those lines. And because she had a lot of menstrual pain and just menstrual issues, which caused her not just physical pain, but also a lot of psychological stress. Because, she was surrounded by her father who wanted to have a boy. And then she was like, well, if I can't have any children, that's going to be crappy. Then Mary took the throne in 1553. And at the age of 37, she married Philip of Spain. So she was super happy, finally felt love for the first time in her life. And then 2 months later, she became pregnant. And she exhibited symptoms such as a growing abdomen and breasts. But the general public, her people, did not think she was pregnant. They thought she was faking it and lying. You're just going to pull this uninterested face.
Mm-hmm.
Why not participate?
I'll participate when it gets interesting.
Well, apparently back in that time, 6 weeks before she was due, they would send her into her chambers and she'd be there by herself. I mean, probably the chambermaids, but away from the public eye. And she didn't have her baby on time. So everyone's like, oh, we just messed up. It was a miscalculation. You're not actually due until June. So even after a month later, she still didn't have a kid. And then her belly began to shrink. So she thought this was God punishing her. What probably happened was a phantom pregnancy, which is a thing apparently. And while this was happening, I already said that, the public just didn't think that she had a baby. And also there was this divide between Protestants and Catholics. And this is from the website that I got all this information from is from allthat'sinteresting.com. The irony is you don't seem to look very interested, but
I'm
they
interested
say
in that phantom baby thing. Let's go talk about that.
Well, just wait. But according to this, Mary, determined to unite her people under the true religion of the land, took action by signing an act shortly before Christmas in 1554 that would result in the Marian persecutions, in which an estimated 240 men and 60 women were sentenced as Protestants and burned at the stake, which is what her name, Bloody Mary, comes from. But she actually became pregnant once more, but once again did not have a baby. So she had 2 phantom pregnancies in her lifetime. And then she died at the age of 42. So she kind of had a short, really sad life, but she also killed 300 people for no reason other than religious persecution.
Well, I mean, just, that's a good reason as any, I suppose.
What?
I mean, historically speaking, that's the reason for most deaths in the world.
Yeah. So the second one, so that was Bloody Mary. Like, that was her name from history.
So when did it get all creepy and shit?
When she killed 300 people?
No, I mean, like, Bloody Mary,
Oh, we'll get to that. So, the second person it could be from is Elizabeth Bathory, who was around the same time, 1560 was when she was born, into Protestant nobility in Hungary. And during this time, her family controlled Transylvania. A lot of people also consider her the first vampire, but we'll get into that.
No. Vlad the Impaler is where that whole thing started.
I was actually going to do Vlad the Impaler for this week instead of Bloody Mary, but his story was so uninteresting that I was like, we'll save him for another time. Milo, get off.
He impaled over 1,200 people and kept their heads on spikes.
Wait until you hear what Elizabeth Bathory did.
I don't fucking care. How can you say Vlad the Impaler is not that interesting?
I mean,
he's the origin of Dracula.
He inspired Dracula, but what he did, like, there were no ties other than that.
His castle had, like, hidden chambers that were used to torture people.
So did H.H. Holmes.
Yeah. And you did a whole fucking episode about him now, didn't you?
That's true. That's fair. We'll save Vlad the Impaler for another day, but let me finish about Elizabeth Bathory. So, also her uncle was the king of Poland. Fun fact. So, in 1575, 15 years old, she married Count Ferenc Nadasdy, another, like, guy who was part of a powerful family, and she had 4 kids. That's not really relevant. Then when her husband died in 1604, these rumors began to spread that she was murdering peasant women. And then in 1609...
Oh, is this the bitch that bathed in blood?
Yes, it is her.
Cool.
So
there's a video game about her. Actually, no, sorry, it's a movie about a video... it's a movie about a video game called Stay Alive. And what happens is, in this video game... You create a character, right? And if you die in the game, you die in real life. And it's good. It has Frankie.
So it's like Zathura?
No, you don't get teleported into the game. You are literally playing the game with your controller on your laptop or whatever. And if you die in the game, you will have a ghost will come back and kill you the same way you died in the game. And the idea was that there's this creepy chick that would, bathe in blood and shit, and she was the reason the game was kind of cursed and everything.
Well, yeah, she's Bloody Mary. Well, possible contender for Bloody Mary.
Yeah, so she's afraid of roses. Is that relevant?
I didn't find that in my research. But in 1609, these rumors began to get worse, and they said that she started murdering members of nobility. So during that time, her cousin... We didn't write down his name, but he was ordered by Matthias, who was the king of Hungary, to investigate these claims. And he found, quote unquote, that Elizabeth Bathory had tortured and killed more than 600 girls with the assistance of servants, and supposedly bathed in their blood to a poor... gosh, dang it. She supposedly bathed in their blood to appear more youthful. And then on December 30th, 1609, Bathory and her servants were arrested, and 3 of her servants were executed, but she was actually never tried, and she just stayed in her chambers until she died in 1614. And this is so I got all this information about her from Britannica Encyclopedia, and then on Britannica Encyclopedia it says, while documents from her trial supported the accusations made against her, modern scholarship has questioned the veracity of the allegations. Bathory was a powerful woman, made more so by her control of Nadasty's holdings after his death. The fact that a large debt owed to Matthias by Bathory was canceled by her family in exchange for permitting them to manage her captivity suggests that the acts attributed to her were politically motivated slander that allowed relatives to appropriate her lands. So they actually don't know if she did any of these things. It could just be they wanted it for the money. Okay, now the last one, which this one...
I do have one thought on that.
Yeah.
The movie's pretty good. Has Frankie Muniz in it. I don't know if I said that. Yeah.
He did not mention that. Where has he been? He actually plays golf and races cars.
Well, then that's where he's been. He retired at 18. Called it.
That's the life. We should all be Frankie Muniz.
Yeah. There's this tweet that this guy is like, you haven't done anything for a while. And he goes, I've made $10 million before the age of 15 and I've been retired. And so.
Not bad.
Yeah. I don't know if logistically, like, he was retired at 18, but it was in his early 20s. Like, I might be misquoting Frankie Muniz' tweet here, but yeah, it's pretty good. No, highly recommend it. I think it has, like, Paul Giamatti or some shit in it as well. It's been a while.
Did you say Paul Giamatti?
Yeah.
That's not his name.
Yeah, Paul Giamatti. That's his name.
It's Paul Giamatti. It's a D.
I'm pretty sure it's an N.
It might actually be a T pronounced like a D.
Paul Giamatti? It's Paul Giamatti.
It's not Paul Giamatti.
It's an N. I swear to fucking God, it's Paul Giamatti.
It's 2 T's.
Fuck off.
Paul Giamatti.
Anyway.
Okay. Anyway, the last person is Mary Worth, who I actually got this information from hauntedrooms.co.uk.
These sources don't seem very...
Britannica Encyclopedia is very legit. Allthat'sinteresting.com has a very legit layout. This one seems more like a blog, but everything I found about this one was kind of a blog, so...
I thought you said all these fuckers weren't named Mary, but all of them are.
Elizabeth Bathory?
Yeah, she went by Mary.
No, she didn't.
Yes.
Her name was Elizabeth Bathory. She went by Bathory. Or Elizabeth.
Why the fuck would you go by her last name?
I don't know, it's like a sports team. Bathory. So last one is Mary Worth. And this happened, I can't find any years that this happened, but it happened during the Salem witch trials because she was actually one of the ones that were killed during it. So that can give you the time period. And she lived in a cabin.
What are the time period behind the Salem witch trials?
You know, like, I'm going to say 1893. I was super wrong. 1693. I was 200 years off. It's fine. We're moving on. So she was alive during the Salem witch trials and then died during them. Yeah. So anyway, she lived in a cabin in the woods and was known around her village for selling tinctures and herbal remedies. So people called her a witch because of these things. And a lot of the locals were really scared of her and they avoided her and just stayed out of the forest. In their village, small girls started to go missing and people couldn't find them. And Mary claimed to not know anything, but locals said that she appeared to be more youthful and beautiful looking. Like, Mary Worth's story seems a lot like, it reminds me a lot of the Sanderson sisters in Hocus Pocus, so I think she may have been an inspiration for that. And one night, the miller's daughter was captivated by something that no one else could see or hear. So she, like, literally, her mom, during this time, her mom was taking,
Whose mom? The daughter?
The little girl, okay. Yeah. The little girl's mom was taking this medicine that Mary Worth gave her. So she was taking this medicine, and all of a sudden the girl was just like, what? And started looking in this distance, and, like, no matter what people said to her, she could not hear them, or it was like she couldn't hear them or pay attention to them at all. And she just got up and walked out of the house into the woods. So her mom was sick, so she couldn't leave. But her dad went, and, like, while he was walking that way, he recruited all the townsfolk. It's a very movie scene, like, come on, guys, let's go. And they went into the forest, and while they were walking there, they saw, like, a light in the distance. And they followed that light, and also the daughter did. And so they followed her and the light, and it led to a clearing where Mary Worth was standing under a tree, and she was pointing a glowing wand at the direction of the miller's house. So the miller, he shot Mary in the hip with a silver bullet, and then all the townsfolk just picked her up and took her to the town square where they tied her to a stake and burned her alive. Now, supposedly, while she was burning, she set a curse upon the villagers and told them that if they ever dared to utter her name in a mirror, she would be back for them, and her spirit would return to wherever they summoned her from to exact her revenge. And also after she died, they went to her house to investigate, and they found a bunch of unmarked graves. So they were like, yeah, no, obviously she killed some kids, some children's.
Wouldn't they have to be children's unmarked graves?
I don't know.
Maybe she built her house on an old graveyard.
It wasn't very specific. Could be. Could just be lore.
Yeah, maybe they probably made it up. Also, where the fuck did she get a wand?
I don't know. Yeah, because they're like, this isn't even aligned with what witches did during this time. So most of her story was probably just like,
hey, we want to kill somebody. Yeah.
Like, oh, well, she was doing this and she was doing this. But, like, one thing is for sure about her is that she was selling tinctures and herbal remedies. And she was, like, a loner. So
what's that first word you said?
Tinctures? I'm going to look it up. I might be pronouncing it.
You're mispronouncing that.
It's like, TINCTURES. tincture. Okay, so what are your thoughts on the Marys and the Bloody Marys?
Like, which one was it?
Just, yeah, sure, them in general.
So I don't think it was any of them. People like to create things. And I feel like somewhere along the line, because I don't know if you know this, Mary is a very common name.
Well,
Yeah, I know. Shocker. So the idea, like the name probably came from the first one, even though you even said that one was probably embellished.
which one? Mary?
All of them.
I mean, the only one that probably wasn't embellished, actually, is the Mary of England. Because, like, that's on record. Like, legit, she did those things.
Then why do you use such a shitty source?
Oh, that's interesting.com. It does not seem that crappy. It seems like a pretty solid choice.
I digress. What I'm trying to say is that people like stories and people like to be scared. So take, for instance, the Brothers Grimm's creating Cinderella. I'm sure in history we can find somebody that fits that description if we go back and look hard enough. So I feel like this idea that of Bloody Mary and how it became a fable and how it, you know, kind of became this spooky story.
Dang it, Milo. We'll just wait. Okay.
The idea that it became this fable or this spooky story probably
Milo, stop. Okay, continue quickly before he does it again.
probably came about from, you know, just people's imaginations or spooky, you know, tales and stories. And then we looked back in history or try to originate this, you know, claim, and these are the people that we found. And they could have taken inspiration from each of them, specifically the whole Bloody Mary thing, but I'm not even sure that that is a correct translation from...
She was a Queen of England.
Yeah. What of it?
They speak English.
I guarantee 500-year-old English is not the same as English that we have today.
I agree, but I don't think it was that much of a difference.
You know what bugs me? I feel like Mary should be spelled with an IE, because every other word that you add an IE at the end of is equivalent to a Y. Except for Mary. Comes Marie. And it pisses me off. That's what I'm leaving this as.
Okay. So, on that note...
Maybe it started as a drink.
Have you ever done... No, I think the drink came later. Have you ever done the Bloody Mary thing in the bathroom?
No, because I'm not a fool. Like, I am not superstitious.
You're just a little suspicious.
No, I'm not superstitious. But I also don't like taking chances.
That's fair.
So, why risk it, you know?
Risk it for the biscuit.
I don't really care for biscuits.
Bisquick.
Yeah, risque for biscuit. That's what I always say.
Okay, whatever. So...
Calm. You said it first.
I did not say risque for the biscuit. That was you. That was all you.
You said risk it for the biscuit, and then you said risk it for the bisquick.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said both.
You got weirder.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so if you want to look at pictures related to this topic and other topics that we have discussed, you can follow us on Instagram at HMCT Podcast. On Twitter at Podcast HMCT. Just a little flipperoonie. And you can also look at our website, Histories, Mysteries, conspiracies. Totally forgot the name of the podcast for a second. .com.
History of Mysteries Conspiracies or Histories, Mysteries, and Conspiracies?
No, there's no and in the website. It's just historiesmysteriesconspiracies.com. Or you can email at hmctpodcast@gmail.com. And as I was asked, Milo, stop. I was asked this past week if I had a Patreon. So I created one. And the website for that is just patreon.com/hmct. I think that's everything. Okay. Thank you for listening and putting up with our tomfoolery. If you sign up for Patreon, you will get to hear bonus content of when my microphone failed and Kyler and I had very deep voices and we were talking and arguing about Paul Giamatti's name. So, if you're interested in that, you can check out the Patreon. Okay, on that note, be your weird self.
Oh, is that when I say bye?
Yeah.
I thought you said be your will self bye, and then I was like, bye.
Well, it's one. Okay, we'll try this again. Be your weird self.
Bye.
Bye.
I thought you weren't gonna say bye.
Your bye was weak.
You fucking bamboozled me.
Let's do it again. So, on that note...
Motherfucker.
Happy Halloween, and be your weird self.
Bye.